Tana Ross. Oh my God, Tana Ross is the co-founder of Green Room Productions. She's made documentary films about youth, culture, poverty, faith, and crossing racial and economic boundaries, right? Her films have won prizes at film festivals all over the world. And as a guide, an author, and photographer, Tana has traveled the entire world, including Antarctica. And although you may think that we're like, have a thing between us because I've been friendly with her, or loving her at least, for 40 years, but we don't talk about our childhood very much. And that's not a thing we share very much. But Tana is going to tell you her story now.
This is a story to honor an extraordinary brave woman, McGrath, whom I called Oma Dur. She lived a simple life as a house cleaner with her husband, an invalid from the First World War, in the city of Mannheim in Germany. They were fiercely anti-Nazis, hating Hitler. They had 2 sons and a daughter, Anneliese. Both their sons were killed in the war, and in one of the many heavy air raids by the Allies, the house they lived in was bombed while they were hiding in a shelter and destroyed everything they owned. Not even a teaspoon was left, Oma Dur said. In Berlin, where my family lived, after trying everything possibly, had given up hope getting a visa to leave Germany. The deportations had increased, and daily friends and family members were disappearing. In her desperation, my mother Gerda asked her good friend Anneliese, who was living and working in Berlin, if she could take Irene, her 3-year-old daughter, as she was afraid for my life. At a great risk, Anneliese's mother, Oma Dur, came to Berlin and brought me to Mannheim. And with the help of a few kind neighbors, she managed to hide, feed, and care for me. The punishment for hiding Jews were severe, but she said she had gone through so much already, she didn't care. While I was with Oma Dur, my father and mother were separately deported to Auschwitz. My maternal grandmother was now alone in Berlin with friends and relatives all gone and deported. She was so desperate, lonely, and depressed that she asked for me to be brought back to Berlin, maybe thinking we would be spared. We weren't. After a few weeks back in Berlin, my grandmother was taken to Theresienstadt, a concentration camp located in then Czechoslovakia, and I was taken to an orphanage for Jewish children outside Berlin. Anneliese found out where I was, and when Oma Dur heard about it, she immediately returned back to Berlin in order to visit the orphanage with Anneliese and get me out at any cost and take me back to Mannheim. Again, Oma Dur was willing to risk her life. When the 2 arrived at the orphanage, or as Oma Dur called it, the children's concentration camp, the supervisor told them that Irene and a 12-year-old girl were taken away a few days before, most probably to Theresienstadt, which is where we were sent. My grandmother was already in the camp, where we were reunited and where she cared for me until the war was over and we were liberated.
Oh my God. Tana, did you ever see Oma Dur after that?
Yes, I saw Oma Dur in Stockholm, where we went after the war in Sweden. To Sweden, I saw her when I was about 11 years old.
Did you recognize her?
I didn't recognize her, but she recognized me. Yeah, I know it was her. And she was absolutely lovely. Lovely, warm, crying, hugging. It was a great reunion, yes.
I'm sorry. It just, so where did you go after the war was over?
To Stockholm, to Sweden. We had relatives in Stockholm, so we went to Sweden after the war, where I stayed until I was adventurous and came to New York for a visit and stayed there, and I'm still here.
That's how we do in the vineyard, right? We come to a visit and stay. But anybody who knows you knows that you have this very cheerful, positive attitude towards everything. Why is it, or how is it possible that you didn't become bitter?
That's a very hard question to answer. I'm not bitter, and we were not the only ones suffering. People are still suffering. And I think it has made me maybe acutely aware of what's going on in the world, and having seen so much of the world. And I think fighting racism and mindless hatred is very much on my mind.
And so that it affected your worldview?
In that way, it did, yes.
Oh,
I think my
okay.
past did affect my worldview, yes.
Uh, and did it affect, or does it affect, I want to say your outlet on life, as you just said, just see the goodness of it?
Yes,
Okay.
I think I do. Yes.
Yeah, it did. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.